version of that object. Another part of the laser beam goes directly onto, or virtually directly onto, a photographic print, and then this part of the laser beam that's gone across the object is directed back onto the same photographic print, and the two laser beams hit each other. What this creates is what they call an interference pattern. And it's like dropping two stones in a pond, and as the waves come out and hit each other, that waveform is a waveform version of those two stones, where they fell, how fast, and all the rest of it. Exactly the same interference pattern. This is a holographic photographic print of an interference pattern, which looks very much like fingerprints, interestingly. But when you fire a laser at this photographic print, this interference pattern, which is a vibrational version of the object that's been photographed, suddenly, out of nowhere, comes a three-dimensional, or apparently three-dimensional form, which, the best of them, can look totally solid, except you can put your hand through them because they're not solid at all. All these are holograms. Hello, Mom. This is a landscape. That's not a very good one, but it gives the feel of it. These are holograms. These are virtual reality games, which give the three-dimensional feel. And so the three-dimensional world that we think we live in, it's just an illusion made up of holographic images which appear solid, because that's the way we decode them, but aren't really. The world is vibrational, and we decode it into the physical when we observe it. It's a construct. It's illusory. It's like when that Neo character in the Matrix went into a higher state of consciousness, he saw beyond the physical to that which is behind it. And interestingly, this is January's New Scientist, one of the most prestigious mainstream science magazines in Britain, just a few months ago, and the front page is, "You are a hologram projected from the edge of the universe." Even mainstream scientists, some of them are starting to realize this, except when you read the article, they missed the point massively. It's not projected from the edge of the universe at all. It's going on inside us. And interestingly, holograms have an amazing characteristic. Every part of the hologram is a smaller version of the whole. And so if you take a holographic print, and you cut it into four, and you fire the laser at the four pieces, you don't get a quarter-size part of the whole picture when you do that. You get a quarter-size version of the whole picture. Every part of the hologram is a smaller version of the whole wherever you go. And that's why we have this stuff in alternative healing. That's why reflexologists can find parts of the hands and the feet and other parts of the body that relate to the body as a whole. They can find a place that connects with the heart, that connects with the liver. That's why acupuncture can find points on the ear which represent and connect with different parts of the body. Because every part of the body is a smaller version of the whole body. And in the same way, every single part of this universe, whether it's an ant, a person, a tree, a blade of grass, a breath of air, in the end is a smaller version of the super hologram that I call it, which is the universe as a whole. Work. There you go. I met this guy, Harvey Biggleton, in America a few months ago, and he wrote this book called Holographic Blood. And he showed me through a microscope my own blood massively blown up through the microscope, and there were holographic pieces in it. Holographic parts of my body in it. I could see it. "Oh, you got a problem there," he said. Three-dimensional forms. That's why we have this saying, as above, so below. That's why the human energy field operates in the same basic way as the energy field of the earth, and so on and so on. It's because every part of the hologram is a smaller version of the whole. So we are, even on this physical level, we are the bloody universe, and the universe is us. My God, we've come a long way since Ethel Jones and Charlie Bloody Smith. It's a miracle. What are miracles? How can the illusion of fire burn the illusion of physicality? It can't unless we believe it can. And when we move ourselves into another state of consciousness, another state of reality, we can walk through fire without being burned, because our belief system changes, and therefore our experience changes. That great line in the Matrix, it's not the spoon that bends, it is only yourself. Of course it is, because you're decoding the spoon into physicality. You're deciding if it bends or not. And it's all about going beyond rules by becoming conscious. What we call the rules and laws of physics, or the rules of limitation, come from mind. Consciousness, when you get really into consciousness, can overcome the illusory laws of physics, the illusory laws of this reality. This is a line from the Matrix. I've seen agents punch through a concrete wall. Men have emptied entire clips at them and hit nothing but air. And yet their strength and their speed are still based in a world that is based on rules, mind. Because of that, they will never be as strong or as fast as you can be. And who was you symbolic of? He's the one. Consciousness, the one. That's what we are, consciousness. And because we've been manipulated to forget that, we live in a world of enslavement and imposition. When we realize who we are, those days are over, and we are now beginning to realize who we are. I'll be back in 1 hour. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. And not with consciousness, which is who you are. We are all one consciousness. This is the irony. I don't care if you're bloody Jewish or black or middle class or white American. We're all the same consciousness. Ultimately, if you go high enough, having different experiences. And we get divided and ruled by self-identity with this. That's what racism is. Utterly bloody stupid. Now, humans. What are humans? Humans are software programs. Different software programs running through the body computer. We say these things, I'm only human. No, you're not. That's an experience you're having. It's the vehicle's program which manifests as what we call the human body and the human being. Software program. This is in the San Francisco Chronicle, an article on DNA. DNA is a universal software code. From bacteria to humans, the basic instructions for life are written with the same language. It's all a computer game of great sophistication, and this is part of it. And the difference between a mouse and a human in DNA code terms is fractional compared with the difference in the way the body manifests. DNA is made up of 4 codes, A, C, G, and T. I think I'm made up of G and T and G and T, me, but there you go. A, C, G, and T. And these different codes, how they relate to each other decides how the physical form manifests, whether it's a wolf or an ant or a virus or a human being. And it's interesting how the codes on the computer's screens in the Matrix movie, which was very, very close to reality, not totally, but very close to reality in so many ways, very illustrative of the way we decode reality into an illusory physical state, but quite right, those codes were very much like the DNA codes in so many ways, because on one level, this reality, like I say, is digital. And I'll get to that as we go along. Now, what they're doing now, of course, is having what they call computer-brain interfaces, where they're connecting computers to the brain, and the brain is working the computer without hands being used. And the reason they can do that is quite simple. They're connecting two computer systems. One extraordinarily more sophisticated than the other, but still the same in theme. The human body ticks box after box after box in terms of a highly sophisticated computer system. When your computer gets a virus and you start to see a problem, it maybe slows down or whatever, and as the virus gets more and more a hold of the computer, I've had this done to me, eventually the computer won't even switch on anymore. And what do we say? Hey, my computer's dead. And what happens at what we call human death is the computer shuts down and who we are leaves. Eternal consciousness leaves. Our computers go into sleep mode where it shuts everything down and everything just ticks over. That's what we do. Our computer shuts down and ticks over. We call it sleep. Although I have to say, I didn't get any last night. Crikey. I can't get out of British time. I've been here a week. And the bad news is, this is the time I should be asleep. So, I'll do my best. Norton antivirus and all these antivirus things, what do? They protect the computer from external attacks, viruses and what have you. And that's what the human immune system does in an extraordinarily more sophisticated way. Protects the computer system, the body computer system, from attacks. And just with computer antivirus systems, if a new virus comes out, which it's not programmed to repel, then the computer gets completely taken over. This is what happens with the human computer system, antivirus system, which is why when the Europeans went to North America, they took with them smallpox, which the Native Americans had not encountered before, and bingo, they fell like flies because their antivirus system, their immune system, couldn't cope. On the left is or my left, your left, yeah, my right, is a picture taken at the Necker Hospital in Paris when they put a tracer dye into the acupuncture points of the body, and they photographed it, the meridian system, etc. And I looked at that when someone showed it to me, and it reminded me immediately of a motherboard, which is basically what that meridian system is. It's energy, and that energy is information. Everything in this reality is information in various forms: vibrational information, digital information, electrical information, being decoded. That's how the whole thing comes together and manifests. And what they found is that when this energy, which the Chinese in acupuncture call qi, is going around this system too slowly, from optimum, people manifest some kind of illness or dis-ease. Why? Because the qi is information, and if the information is not passing around quick enough, then the body computer does not function as it should. When a computer on your desktop gets a virus, what's the first thing that people say most often? Hey, my computer's slow, because the information's not passing around as it should. And what acupuncture does is put the acupuncture needles in to manipulate the flow of this energy, bring it back to optimum, and therefore physical health. In a computer, the central processing unit, the CPU, is the processor of information, the information traffic. What they call in computer parlance the CPU is the brain of the computer. Very appropriate, because this is our CPU, which is constantly filtering and dealing with the information traffic, passing it around the body, information, receiving information back from different parts of the body, and it is responding according to the information that we're receiving. And that's how we stay healthy, that's how, in optimum terms, we think straight and we have balanced emotions. If you intervene into that process, you can manipulate people mentally, emotionally, and physically. So in the end, it's all about the way we are decoding reality into this physical world which only exists in our head. And you can intervene into that, like I say. The DNA, the genetic structure in general, is like the hard drive that holds the base information and takes on more information as you experience. And like I say, it's not just the physical level, there's an energetic level. In fact, the body's just energy, really. But there's an energetic level, and together, that forms the body-computer entity. And what we call races, cultures, and all these different expressions of the human family, they're just software programs, which we have to experience. And the software programs are very clear when you get into some of this stuff. This guy is called William Sheridan. And he was in a New York hospital waiting for a heart transplant. And to take the time as he was waiting, he joined an art therapy class. And he was, like me, a rubbish artist. And that's the kind of stuff he was drawing, at best at the top. And then he had this heart transplant, and as he was recovering, he went back to the art therapy course, and he started producing much more sophisticated drawings. And he eventually met the mother of the man whose heart he was given, and asked the obvious question, because no one could explain what had happened, including the art therapist lady, who was bewildered by the difference. He asked the mother if the donor had any interest in art, and she said interest. He wanted art materials more than toys by the age of 18 months. He was crazy about art. And there's a doctor in America who's done a major study on this, of how when people receive transplanted organs, and again, the heart is the most obvious in this, the most powerful in this, but other organs too, like the lungs, people have in significant numbers taken on the aptitudes and the personalities, or personality traits, of the donor. Why? Because it's a download, in a sense. You are taking information, energetic information. We decode it as physical, but it's energetic information, and you're putting it into, downloading it into another computer, and that information then becomes available to that computer and starts to affect the way that it perceives reality. My great friend in Africa, Credo Mutwa, the Zulu shaman, who's closing in on 90 now, but when you do the research and you go back and you look at the holding companies, you find that the same holding company controls this and that and that and that, and actually controls this, which is apparently competing with that. And this is what they've done. These families and their secret society network, which go under the name of Illuminati, the illuminated ones, they are the force that is ultimately behind all these apparently unconnected groups and corporations, and they move as one unit as a result. And the idea is to imprison humanity in the way that Orwell described, and the way we're experiencing now, not even by the day, but by the bloody hour, of more and more surveillance, more and more control, more and more suppression, more and more police state. And in doing so, manipulating the way we perceive reality, so we, as the external world moves in on us, the internal world moves in on us, and we become less and less of who we are. So, let's get real bloody bizarre now. If you've never seen my stuff before, it's time to leave. Who are this non-human group or grouping behind these particular bloodlines, and how do they interact? I had to go through this, so everyone else should as well. I was minding my own business in the 1990s, and suddenly, I don't know what is this force I picked up or picked me up, I don't know, 20 years ago. But it's like opening and shutting doors and in a maze, and it says, okay, not down there, down there. Look at this. Okay, now look at that. And what tends to happen is a theme comes into my life, and suddenly things are coming at me in relation to that theme from every angle. From 2003 to now, it's been the nature of reality all the time. Just earlier to that, from the just after mid-90s onwards, I kept coming across people who were telling me they'd seen, apparently human people, turn into a reptilian form and then go back again in front of their eyes. And you think, okay, right, back burner with that one. But as the months and the years passed, these were coming at me all over the world. And then I started looking at ancient texts and stuff like that, and accounts, and you could find the same stories being told all that apparently time ago. And there are many non-human entities that are interacting with this reality. But the theme that keeps coming to me over the years in relation to these bloodlines behind the Illuminati is of some form of reptilian entities, which are the next stage on, because it goes on beyond them, but the next stage on behind the Illuminati bloodlines and the interbreeders with them is this reptilian group, which sounds real strange until you go with it. Now, again, this is why the first part today is so important. These people know that the body is a biological computer. So to them, that's how they look at it. What we call procreation is the downloading of two hard drives, if you like, into one, which creates the offspring. To these people, they see that as a downloading of a computer program. And so the obsession, and this is real, goes right back to the ancient world, right up to the present day, the obsession that these bloodlines have, take royalty, aristocracy, and the major banking and business families of the world, they interbreed incessantly, and always have. And it's because, from their point of view, they are holding a software program, which is what? Information. It's a state of being. And when you interbreed that, these hybrid bloodlines, with the general population, that, to them, unique software program, computer program, starts to dilute very, very quickly. So what they're trying to do is hold that software, hold that information within the computers by interbreeding with each other. The oldest form of religion and worship so far established is serpent worship. It's massive. It goes right back. 70,000 years ago is the oldest evidence in South Africa of serpent worship. And after I'd written a book called The Biggest Secret, when I introduced this for the first time, I went to speak in South Africa, and I met this man, Credo Mutwa, who contacted the organizers of my event and said, I want to talk to this man. So I went to see him, and I spent days with him in the end. And he first said to me, he said, Mr. David, he said, how do you know about the Chitahuri? And I said, well, who are they? He said, they are the children of the serpent, the children of the python. That's what Chitahuri translates as. And he told me that when the colonial powers came into Africa, as everywhere else, they targeted the shaman and the carriers of the ancient knowledge and the ancient history of that area, and in his words, they milked the minds of the shaman and then killed them. So to keep the knowledge alive, the shaman streams started to create their own secret societies with horrendous initiation rituals to make sure you really wanted the knowledge, and they carried it underground so it would survive. Because what the colonial powers wanted, in other words, these bloodlines behind the colonial powers, they wanted to destroy as much of the ancient knowledge as possible, because then they could impose their own version of history, which would write out what they didn't want people to know. So about, what is he now, 90, crikey, 60 years ago nearly, He was initiated into these secret societies in South Africa, and that's when he learned about the Chitahuri, and he's gone on learning ever since. That is a painting. He's a brilliant man. He's a library on legs. That's one of his paintings of one kind of the Chitahuri, as he calls them. There are many different types, as there are different types of human. And he showed me this, what he calls the necklace of the mysteries. It's mentioned 500 years ago in accounts. He reckons it's at least 1,000 years old, and he calls it a necklace. You put it on your shoulders. Oh my God, it's so heavy. And he sits there for hours with it. I don't know how he does it. And what he does, because he's the official storyteller of the Zulu nation, what he does is use these symbols to tell the story of Africa, the people of Africa. And right at pride of place at the front is a human woman and a very clearly non-human man with a big willy in come and get me mode. And interestingly, he says that was originally gold. And then someone stole it, and they couldn't replace it with gold, so they replaced it with copper. But then again, this is southern Africa. You go to North Africa, and one of the key foundation stories and myths of ancient Egypt is of the golden penis of Osiris. And the more and more that I see this, these are symbolic of this bloodline, of this connection, this hybrid bloodline connection. And what Credo was saying, yeah, I used to go out with someone like that. It was good. That's the lady. And here's the guy. Now, he doesn't look very reptilian. I pointed that out to him. And he said, this is the story. The Chitahuri, when they were manifesting openly in some areas, said, you must never portray us as we really are, otherwise death. So he said what people did is they portrayed them as clearly not human in various ways, but not actually as they really looked. Although if you go one stage back from Sumer, in the same area, which was the Ubaid culture, which preceded Sumer in Mesopotamia, now Iraq, you do find in the graves of Ubaid graves, there have been found very clearly representations of reptilian mothers and babies and all the rest of it. This is a symbolic image by Neil Haig of this hybrid bloodline, which has, we all have, and I'll come to this, we all have reptilian genetics, very, very serious reptilian genetics within the body hologram computer, but these hybrid bloodlines have much more reptilian genetics, and therefore have much more of the reptilian genetic personality, if you like. And around the world, again, it's like, have you seen that new car? No, and you see them everywhere. Again, once this reptilian thing came into my life, I started to realize just how much reptilian imagery there is everywhere, all over the world. And the ancient myths and stuff like that of the Nagas in Asia, the people who were said to be part reptilian, part human, and could move. And if people realized Zionism is the creation of the Rothschild family, who are a major, major Illuminati family, along with many others, and interact with very closely, in many ways, with the Rockefellers. It was the Rothschilds who spent millions, £6 million pounds back in the 50s to build the Knesset, the Israeli parliament. It was the Rothschilds who built the Supreme Court in Jerusalem with all its massive Illuminati symbolism, which is well shown on the internet. This is a fiefdom of the Rothschilds, and Zionism has caused more mayhem and strife for Jewish people as anybody else. Why is there no peace in Israel? Because for Jewish people as well as Palestinians, because Zionism doesn't want it. That's why. Because there are plans to use Israel and use the Jewish people in Israel to manifest a massive conflict which will lead to a third world war, which is what these guys are after. And Rahm Emanuel is the man who pulls the strings of Barack Obama, along with this guy, another Zionist, called David Axelrod. He was the guy that ran the whole of, masterminded the whole of the election campaign, both against Hillary Clinton and against John McCain. And it's Axelrod that is responsible for the words that appear on the teleprompter screens that Barack Obama reads. And he reads them so robot-like in terms of not having a thought in his head, that last week, maybe 10 days ago, he thanked himself for inviting everybody to a reception because someone else's speech was on the teleprompter instead of his by mistake. It was the Irish Prime Minister was there on St. Patrick's Day. There, people are starting to call him the teleprompter president. It's so bloody obvious. That's why he never looks ahead. It's right, left, because that's where the screens are. Hello, Barack, over here. Sorry, I'm reading. And this is why you're getting the policy of Obama saying Palestinian refugees belong to their own state and do not have a literal right to return to Israel. He's talking about the people who fled, 800,000 of them, at the time of the bombing Israel into existence in 1948, and have never allowed to come back to their own land. People forget about this. White phosphorus, pepper bombing, the most crowded piece of land on the planet, the Gaza Strip. We don't target civilians, we just bomb where they live. Unbelievable. We're just protecting ourselves. No, it's a slaughter. I know I'm hearing, oh, there's a lot of anti-Israeli sentiment. Do you know something? I have a way around that. Stop slaughtering innocent people from the sky, okay? End of story. And it'll go away. And this is important. This is important for what's planned to come. We now have a situation in Israel where the extreme of the extreme has taken the reins of power. Benjamin Netanyahu, he's talked about, these are his words summarized, he wants a violent reoccupation of Gaza to liquidate its elected government. And he pledges to thwart the Iranian threat once and for all. He's now got this guy, Lieberman, as his foreign minister, and this man's so far right, he topples over, right? And he's got Barak as the defense minister in this new government, and he was defense minister that oversaw the pepper bombing of the Gaza Strip. And this is Martin van Creveld. He's a well-known historian in Israel, and this is what he said publicly. We possess several hundred atomic warheads and rockets and can launch them at targets in all directions, perhaps even at Rome. Most European capitals are targets for our Air Force. We have the capability to take the world down with us, and I can assure you that that will happen before Israel goes under. They have a policy of not saying if they've got nuclear weapons or they haven't. They just don't talk about it. And a guy called Mordecai Vanunu, a wonderful Israeli man, went to jail for, I think it was 18 years, for exposing the fact publicly that they did have nuclear weapons. And now we've got this thing, oh, Iran's going to have nuclear weapons. What? The idea, and we're seeing it almost complete now, from the start, was to drive out the Palestinian people, not be at one with them, not share power with them, not share the land with them. The green bits are Palestinian land over the period of time up to the year 2000, and it's gone on since then, as illegal settlements are put in Palestinian land. And one of the people that lives in an illegal settlement is Lieberman. As an Australian newspaper said this week, he must be the only foreign minister in the world who doesn't actually live within the borders of his own country. And the Middle East policy in Obama's administration is by Bilderberg, George Mitchell, Bilderberg, Council on Foreign Relations, by the notorious little Kissinger, Richard Holbrooke, who played a major part in breaking up the former Yugoslavia in wars, etc., so it could be absorbed into NATO and the European Union, which it is being now. He's Bilderberg Group, Council on Foreign Relations Trilateral Commission. He's now in charge of Pakistan-Afghanistan policy. And this man, who is an arch-Zionist called Dennis Ross, he's now in charge of Iran policy. What it's building to is an effort, and Brzezinski is behind this, among many others, to create a conflict out of the Middle East, and in this area we're looking at, to bring about a third world war. And the third world war will be, and this was been written about in the past, that there were going to be 3 world wars to bring this new world order into being. A war that would finish off the superpowers and bring the whole world under the control of a world government, which will then dictate to every country. And the personnel are in place. We're hearing, oh, he's a good guy because he's closing Guantanamo. Well, he's going to close it in a year. But I won't go through this because of time. But John Pilger here brilliantly exposes the fact that Barack Obama has actually fundamentally changed nothing. It's all rhetoric. As he said, the man of change is changing little. That ought to be front page news from Washington, but it isn't. And I have a golden rule with Obama. Again, that Hitler quote, but I have a golden rule with Obama. Ignore the words and watch the actions. If you listen to the words, you can get caught that there's change going on and he's different. Watch the actions and you'll see that there is nothing. And just to confirm that nothing has changed, there you go. Where would world politics be without Bono, eh? Where would they be? So we have this secret agenda, and we have the movie, which is just explaining away the secret agenda. And money, finance, is fundamentally one of these problem reaction solutions that we are now looking at. This crisis was brought about, engineered by not least this guy, Alan Greenspan, who was head of the Federal Reserve, Central Bank of America, but actually it's a private cartel of banks, nothing to do with the government in truth. And from the end of the kind of Reagan administration, right through Father Bush, right through the 2 Clintons, and through most of Boy Bush, this guy was head of the Federal Reserve. And he led a campaign which was mirrored around the world because of this transnational corporation I'm talking about, which took away all credible regulation on the banks and financial institutions doing what the hell they bloody liked. And it was purposely created to create enormous amounts of debt. And you could be a monkey and get a mortgage at one point. And the idea was then, when the debt had reached massive proportions, unmanageable proportions, then you crash the system. Because what you want is a massive problem which you can then add endless solutions to, including the introduction eventually, and we're going there, of a world central bank to dictate to all global finance. And that's what we've been doing all these years, watching the game and all the rest of it. We've just been pulled in on the fishing line to get in more and more debt so the control system can play out. And this guy, Henry Paulson, who was Treasury Secretary when the crash happened during the end of the Bush administration, he came from Goldman Sachs in 2006, and then as to save the banking system, to save the economy, orchestrated vast amounts of money to end up in the coffers of Goldman Sachs. All this money has been fired at the banks, disappeared. It's not changed things in any credible way. And again, business as usual. Bush justifying the giving the money to the banks. The government's top economists, experts warn that without immediate action by Congress, America could... Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. the microphone. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Hey, can you hear my mic all right? You can now, it's turned on. Hey, I remember the last time I came to Australia. Well, the first time, actually. I've been 3 times. And I started off north of Brisbane in the back of this old banger of a car, went down through Brisbane, down to Newcastle and Sydney and Adelaide, sitting like this, mile after mile in the back of this sodding car, talking to next to no bugger. It were great. But it's amazing if you keep going because you believe what you're doing is right, how the waters open and things change, as long as you don't give up. When you give up, that's when it all stops and nothing can manifest from it. But when you keep going, if what you're saying has any validity, it will eventually be shown to be so. And all that effort, which appeared to be a waste of time and a waste of effort, in the end starts leading somewhere. And my God, it's leading somewhere now as humanity starts to wake up increasingly in vaster and vaster numbers to remember the full magnitude of who we are. I'd like to thank Adam and all the team for putting this event on so magnificently. And I just ask one thing of you. I want no discord today. Well, actually, you can have discord, just don't blame me for it, okay? Because I'll tell you for why. A few days ago, I turned up at immigration at Melbourne Airport. 20-hour flight, knackered, and I'm standing there and in the line, and I go over with my passport, and it was amazing because she stamped it immediately, and I thought, that was quick, no questions. And I'm waiting for it to come back, and she turned around and gave it to some guy who was waiting behind. Would you go with this gentleman, sir? I've heard those words before, many times. And so I followed this fella. They were very nice, very courteous. And he takes me into these back rooms and hands me over to this lady, who takes me into this kind of bright white room, like an Agent Smith type room. And she puts this document in front of me that I have to sign to say that I've read it. And it said a number of things, but this is the key thing. Section 501 of the Migration Act 1958, the Act provides a discretionary power to refuse to grant or to cancel a visa if a non-citizen does not meet the requirements of the character test. Moi? A non-citizen will not meet the requirements of the character test if, among other things, there is significant risk that they will vilify, incite discord in or represent a danger to the Australian community or segment of the Australian community. I think it's a good idea. I think we ought to expand it. I think we ought to have a character test for government ministers and officials. Reckon? I think so. I think so. Because if we did, Canberra would be a bloody ghost town, wouldn't it? And Westminster and Washington and all of them. Character test. Discord. Definition of discord. Lack of agreement among persons, groups or things. Oh, call the bloody army out. Mustn't incite that. Tension or strife resulting from a lack of agreement, dissension. Well, that shut Parliament down for a sodding start, isn't it? A confused or harsh sound or mingling of sounds. Parliament again. There you go. And finally, inharmonious combination of simultaneously sounded tones at dissonance. So if anyone's got a trumpet, play it in tune, or I'm in the crap here, okay? With the government. I don't know. And of course, like all this legislation, terrorist legislation, which doesn't define terrorist, this can be defined by the minister who makes the decision, according to this document, in any way they bloody like. But, as you know, I am someone who is known to bow to authority and bow the head, so I'd like to say that I take the warning extremely seriously, okay? I take the document extremely seriously, and I've thought of nothing else. I shall watch every word I say today. You got to bloody laugh, it's so daft. And I guess there will be someone in the audience who's come to monitor what I say, otherwise there's no point in signing the document. And I'd just like to welcome them, wherever they are. And I really do hope that by the end of the day, they will have found it within themselves to get a life. And then their children and grandchildren might be proud of them, instead of asking them, "Mummy, Daddy, what were you doing when this state came in that now controls every area of my life?" "Oh, I was helping to do it, dear." Yeah, okay. My God, do we need this or what? The whole theme of today is to free our minds. It's more than that, as I'll come to. Free our minds from the programming that turns infinite consciousness, having an experience, into a four-legged animal from which we get wool, that have lost the ability to decide perception and reality for themselves, and have to have it decided for them. Without that, the few couldn't control the many. With it, it's a piece of cake. This is Wilhelm Reich setting the tone for the day, an inventor and researcher and psychologist. He said this: "Am I a spaceman? Do I belong to a new race on Earth, bred by men from outer space in embraces with Earth women? I request my right and privilege to have such thoughts and ask such questions, without being threatened to be jailed by any administrative agency of society. In the face of a rigid, doctrinaire, self-appointed, ready-to-kill hierarchy of scientific censorship, it appears foolish to publish such thoughts. Anyone malignant enough could do anything with them. Still, the right to be wrong has to be maintained. Massive basic human right, the right to be wrong. We should not fear to enter a forest because there are wildcats around in the trees. We should not yield our right to well-controlled speculation. It is certain questions entailed in such speculation which administrators of established knowledge fear. But in entering the cosmic age, we should certainly insist on the right to ask new, even silly questions without being molested. And I demand that right for myself, and no men in dark suits or uniforms are going to deny me that, for I am consciousness, not some clone of some idiotic, brain-dead system that seeks to tell me who I am, and what I can and cannot do with my own mind. So, when we open our mind, or go beyond that even, then we start to see reality in a different way. This is a wonderful quote. "You were born an original, don't die a copy." So many people do that. They go through their lives thinking the norm in society is the only possible perception of reality. And because the majority appear to believe it, therefore, by definition, it must be true. Truth does not change because it is or is not believed by the majority of the people. As Gandhi said, even if you are in a minority of one, the truth is still the truth. Or as this proverb says, the multitude is always wrong. And invariably, when you look through what governments destroy freedom. This is the great one. If people are new to this, this is the first big step. governments are not there to serve the people. Governments are there to serve those that control the governments and enslave the people. That's what they're there for. Once we realize that, then a lot of dots start to connect. Men in dark suits, they're everywhere, these people. They breed. It's like luminous jackets. They're everywhere. Men in dark suits, front men for a force that I'll get into, who are running the system on behalf of those that control the system, and not for the people, which is why the decisions are against the interests of the people. It's real simple once you know what's going on. And they come from certain interbreeding bloodlines. You know, this guy is one of them. Shows what interbreeding too closely can do for you, really. Old Georgie. Boy Georgie. And it just really is a confirmation of just how ludicrous this system's become and just how much control the people do not have lost. That a complete idiot can become president of the United States in the way that this man did. It says so much. You can see it down the back here at a news conference. He's got the wire, you know. Mr. President, could you answer a question? Okay, go ahead. Yeah? Our enemies are innovative and resourceful, and so are we. They never stop thinking about new ways to harm our country and our people, and neither do we. President of the United States, the so-called most powerful country in the world, and that man can become leader. And now the power of persuasion. A man who was spawned from the most corrupt political system in America, Chicago, has become the Messiah for the world in the minds of so many people. When the guy is just the political equivalent of a used car salesman come in here to sell an agenda with a smile on his face. And while we stand by and allow this to happen, our freedoms and freedom of speech is being taken away. Our ability to even interact with these people is being eradicated as we have the free speech zones and all this stuff. And an agenda to enslave humanity. In the next few years, in terms of its the direction it wants to go in terms of its full-scale control, unfolds all the time. And these people are fundamentally responsible. Major media destroy information. If we had a mainstream media that even vaguely associated itself with the true meaning of the word journalism, none of this would be possible. But the same people that control the politicians own the media. And so the media is not there, just like governments, to serve the interests and inform the people. It is there to tell the people what those who own the media want them to believe. Write what you're told. Thanks, nation builders. We couldn't control the people without you. And no, they couldn't. And I'll say this to journalists. I said it years ago, and they laughed. And one or two of them are not laughing so much now. You and your children and grandchildren are going to have to live in the world that you're helping to bring in by just being, as one editor described journalism, just being intellectual prostitutes instead of real journalists investigating and telling real news. And then finally, religions destroy spirituality. Of course they do. Because what my father used to call bricks and mortar religion are there to sell and enslave people within a belief system, and also to create division between different belief systems called religions. So people are so focused on one belief and battling for their belief to have preeminence that they don't deep breath, take a step back, look at it again. Oh my God, I'm all that is, has been, and ever will be. Religions are not there to find spirituality, for want of a word. I'm not sure I like that word very much. They're there to stop us getting to spirituality, overwhelmingly, when you get to the top of them. So we have this crazy world, and it gets crazier. The idea is to keep us so focused on survival. It's like that mass mind control manual that came to light a few years ago called Silent Weapons for a Quiet War, how to manipulate the population. And one of the lines in it said, keep them busy, busy, busy back on the farm with the other animals. So the more you can keep us in a state of survival, more and more stress. Look, mate, you might be saying interesting things, but I live in the real world, mate. Boom. That's the idea, to keep us in that state of stress. And we're now bringing it to younger and younger people. Kids under tremendous stress to pass exams, to show how indoctrinated they are in the system. Oh, must pass your exams. Oh, my son got sorry, I've seen it on car stickers. My son got so-and-so, so-and-so. I'm very pleased for you. By the way, he got it, you didn't. This parental glory-seeking. Oh, go, you've got to pass your exams. You're going to be a banker. Your mum wants you to be a banker. Pressure, pressure, pressure. Whatever happened to life? How do you spell happy, teacher? I mean, what's all that about? Do we ever talk about that? Are you happy? Are you fulfilled? You know, people, we have these measurements of success that are sold to us that we take on, and they're all about more. More and more and more. How many more people are this? How many more people are that? How many more people are this? How many more people have passed degrees? How many more people have got a mortgage? How many more people? And yet, it's the other way that tells the real story. How few people are unfulfilled. How few people are under stress. How few people are ill. How few people are homeless. How few people are terrified of the future. These are the measurements of a success of society, surely, not more and more and more. You know, we have an economic system which I call take, make and throw away, where the whole thing of success is called economic growth, is how fast you can take from the earth, turn it into things, sell more things, throw away more things, and start again. The faster you do that, the more successful you are. And we call it the cutting edge of human society. It's turning the planet into a shite hole. And we have the cleverness up to a point, although if we went to wisdom, we would find that technologically we would advance by enormous strides. But we have the cleverness through mind at the moment to create some amazing technology. Things that could make the world a better place for everybody. But we use that technology to pepper bomb cities full of civilians. We are now such at the cutting edge of human evolution that we can kill more people than ever before. And we do. We're in a world where it seems okay for children to sign their names on bombs that then drop and kill other children. Like I say, we think the world is sane. Well, people in this room don't, but so many people do, when it is utterly insane. And what keeps people from understanding this? The constant hypnotic trance that we put in. You are feeling sleepy. Tick-tock, tick-tock. You don't want to know about pepper bombing cities? Watch this. Shut up. Quick, honey. She's going for the car. Whoa. We live in a world of plenty. And yet people starve for the